next episode of the podcast here, we have my guest is Kyle Smith, managing partner at the Bridge Group. Kyle, thanks for joining us. How's it going?
Going good. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem at all. Well, obviously, like the Bridge Group is very well respected in this space and everything. So, certainly one of the firms that we thought of when trying to have people on, and like the main topic that we're trying to tackle, and there's things that you unpack with it and go in different directions with the conversation, but the main topic is, what is where is B2B sales headed? Like, where is it at right now? Like what's changed, and how do sales leaders need to adapt to these changes? Or are people just like overblowing it? Like, is it really not, things not really changing that much? People are just like making a big deal about it. But I figured like you guys are like doing a lot of this research, all the time. So you're, consulting and meeting with these firms and companies, like you're having conversations like with a lot of different companies. So yeah, anyways, to kick things off, it's kind of like a broad question that I like to ask. But you can feel free to go in any direction that you want with it. But in your words, like what would you say if I just ask you, what is the state of B2B sales? What would you say?
I think the more things change, the more they stay the same. I think a lot has changed. Like, so it has been tumultuous and rough for B2B sellers, specifically the last 18 months. I think we were riding a very fun wave, at least in SaaS, my little world. It's like all I do is B2B tech. So
Mm-hmm.
within SaaS, we were riding a really fun wave for 2021, 2022. And then 2023, things got really rough. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think paired with some of the tougher selling environments was also an explosion of additional technologies available to sellers. And so
Mm-hmm.
that just created a lot that a salesperson has to deal with. They have to quickly figure out, how am I going to adopt new technologies, specifically AI? How am I going to leverage AI to ensure that I'm on the leading edge of things from a seller's perspective? But also, it is way harder for me to actually just go out and effectively source and close deals. And so that was significantly different. It's backed up by what the data tells us. Win rates dropped, average quota attainment across an entire team dropped. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a more challenging selling environment, and sellers had a lot of distractions.
That's a really good answer. Wow. Yeah, you didn't have to like, yeah, you had that ready. Yeah, and like there's a lot of different ways we can go in there. So I guess my next to go off of that and piggyback off of that, um, you mentioned a bunch of different things. What do you think is the most important? Like if somebody is a VP of sales, or maybe they're a director of sales development watching this, like out of all the different things that you just touched on, what do you think is the most important thing that a sales leader needs to be aware of right now?
I'm super biased, admittedly, just based on the nature of what we do, but my answer is enablement. So to
Okay.
me, enablement needs to be the point of emphasis. But I think that's an evergreen topic, and just somewhere where I would just put a ton of emphasis if I was a sales leader, for
Mm-hmm.
two reasons. One, because headcount growth has been less explosive than it was. I've been doing this for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my time, it was almost like, it felt like it was always explosive growth. That
Mm-hmm.
has slowed. Funding has slowed.
Yep.
So this desire to grow by any means necessary and infinitely is not necessarily the same as it has been.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, if you are going to be stuck, makes it sound worse than it is. But if you're going to have consistent or slow headcount growth, you need to make every single rep on your team significantly more productive, because you're
Mm-hmm.
not just going to go get to your inflated number for next year by adding 20 more salespeople. Maybe
Yep.
you get to add three, but you need to get significantly more out of each one on your team. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
enablement comes in. So I think enablement needs to be a huge point of emphasis. And the ones who are doing that well and upskilling people on their team are seeing better retention and better performance per head, which is why I like to focus there.
Yeah, yeah, that's also a really good answer. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense, like like you said, instead of or maybe not instead of, like it might just be like a necessary thing that you literally can't hire another 20 reps right now. So instead of like hiring 20 reps, like you can't even do that like in this economy probably. Like instead, maybe you only add 3 or maybe you don't add any, but you just do as much as you can to optimize the output, of the ones that you have, right? So yeah, I mean, how I guess like probably the natural like next question from there is like how do you go about doing that? And
Yeah,
obviously probably different at each company, obviously
of
not one
course.
size fits all, but what's like if there is a general playbook for like, okay, you're not going to hire any more reps, we're going to optimize the 10 reps that you have and get them all performing better. Like how do you do that? And it's
Yeah, this is where the comment I made, the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is the stay the same. And so I think it's back to basics in a lot of
Mhm,
regards, where we're thinking about how to engage multiple stakeholders early on in a sales process by executing rock solid discovery,
mhm,
because we're seeing more people involved in every deal. That's been a consistent trend, but then was significantly amplified over the course of 2023 and even so far into this year. And so getting stakeholders involved really early on so that you can start to root out like who's going to kill my deal at the late stage, or who else can help to catalyze a realistic project early on. So that, like, developing that skill set, super important. I
mhm,
think also it is, I would just hammer on discovery. Like if it was me with
mhm,
my team without knowing any other details, I think the discovery is a beautiful place to consistently focus and making sure that your team is executing a flawless discovery process that both assesses risk for the future state of the deal and also thinks about how do we effectively optimize the buyer's experience as they progress in the sales process, so that we are not just putting them through the same exact like paint by numbers. We do discovery call, then we do demo, then we do proposal review, then we do
mhm,
POC or something, and
mhm,
actually thinking about what makes sense for this specific buyer, their use case, their actual needs. How do
mhm,
we facilitate a sales process that directly aligns to that and increases the likelihood that they choose to want to partner with us, not just now, but over the long term? That would be my big point of emphasis and what I've seen work well, at least right this second.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. And is there a balance that you sometimes try to find like with clients where like between like you said, you want to try to like align and adjust, your sales process according to the buyer, and not put all of them through that same, predetermined sales process. But at the same time, is there a balance between that and like, sometimes the buyers don't know. Sometimes the buyers don't know how to buy. You have to like lead them. And you might
Yes.
want to have kind of put them through if you are on that call, okay, you don't know how to buy this thing, but we've run this sales process with other clients. And then it kind of just makes you look like, a sales professional that knows the process of how that should go. Is there sometimes like a balance that you try to
Yeah,
find? Or?
just to clarify, it's not, the buyer's opinion has nothing to do with it. So it's not like what I want if I'm the buyer. It's not like, oh, next I would like to see, or here's what I would propose as the next
Sure.
steps. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that that's what we're falling in
Okay.
alignment with. It's just more so based on everything you've told me, here's what I think makes sense
Yep.
as a logical next step. But that doesn't have to be the same logical next step as the 3 prospects I talked to before you. So
Oh,
it's
okay. Yeah.
actually listening to what the prospect in this instance is communicating to you and
Hmm.
truly understanding what their needs are and their current state, and then thinking about how to execute your sales process accordingly, not
Hmm.
necessarily having them run your sales process for you.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That's yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. And like but yeah, that's a good point that be prescriptive, but don't prescribe, the same thing for for
If
every
it doesn't fit.
customer.
Yeah,
Mhm,
if it doesn't fit. It's easier for me to say because I'm a consultant. That's the way I run a sales process.
mhm,
But I think that there are a lot of pieces of that that can be adopted by people selling technology. So,
mhm,
and it's not always done. So this is where I struggle, like in these conversations, because like you and I have known each other for 10 years, I think. And so we could have had this same conversation back then in
Mm-hmm.
2014, 15, or 16, and it would have been true. The struggle that I have is the reps that you're working with now in 2024 weren't reps in 2016. And
Mm-hmm.
so to them, this is new material. So it's sometimes for me, it's shedding this like biased perspective or assumed knowledge of like, oh, you remember what it was like before we had this boom time where everything was easy and everyone looked like they were a genius. And it's
Yep.
getting back to some of those basics that we're talking about, proper discovery, mapping in a account, getting
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders involved early. It's like I've done this a million times.
Mm-hmm.
But the reps that you're talking to haven't necessarily gone through a struggle of a down economic environment. And so retraining on some of those skills
Mm-hmm.
for people who are not in seat pre-COVID is one of the things that we have to consistently remind ourselves of.
Yeah, yeah. And to switch gears a little bit, one other thing, I mean, you guys obviously wrote the book on sales development. And so, what we've been talking about so far is more discovery and the rest of the sales process
Yep.
after the demo and doing a POC and everything. And again, this is going to be maybe like a more broad question you can take in whatever direction that you want, but specifically for sales development, what do you feel is the state of sales development right now, and like where is it headed? Like in an ideal world, like if somebody is trying to figure out what should they be doing with their sales development team.
This is a challenging one. The same in many ways, in that people who are buyer centric, who align their messaging and their value prop to the specific areas of interest and the needs of the prospect that they're reaching out to, are still the ones who win. The phone is still an extremely effective channel, regardless of what anybody says. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like Memory Blue publishes stats on their newsletter, who I like because just the fact that they, as the nature of what they do as an outsourced vendor, specifically focus on SaaS, but target like any subcategory you could think of.
Yep.
And then, I mean, so they're getting 4.5% connect rate on phone,
Mm-hmm.
like last 2 months. Maybe one was 4.4 or 4.6, but call it 4.5% connect rate and like a 14-15% conversion rate to meeting. And so, like, to me, that says phone is still an extremely effective channel. And on the email front, like, everybody talks about it, but if you're sending generic templates, you're going to get a 0.5%, 0.75%, maybe 1% response rate, which is
Mm-hmm.
abysmal. But now there's more significant ramifications for that. And it's not like
Sure.
2014, 2013, when I was the first in SDR, you could send out a mass email, run the predictable revenue model, mass email,
Mm-hmm.
follow up with the responses, then the people who opened, and just like churn meetings like so
Mm-hmm.
easily. Now with spam filters
Mm-hmm.
and domain reputation impacts to doing that type of activity, there could be massive long-term ramifications to doing that type of activity. So
Mm-hmm.
personalization is still extremely important, and the ones who are doing that are doing it really, really well. But I think that there's a lot of noise and distraction. Like the SDR role is going to go away. It's not going to exist. Maybe. I don't think the answer to that, to be honest with you, is it's going to be a fully automated SDR
Mm-hmm.
um, through AI. If anything, maybe it's just more full lifecycle reps who utilize AI to their advantage to drive pipeline themselves rather than
Mm-hmm.
an AI bot working in service of an AE. But I mean, we'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong because it sounds super cool, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
think so. At least not in the next 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. That I wouldn't think that, there's some, I would, think that some of the tasks and responsibilities and, things that an SDR, does can be some of the research perhaps, and some of the writing of, emails and stuff, and can possibly be automated. But, I would think, can't fully be automated, right? Like some of it, you need a human being to kind of use critical thinking and actually have a conversation, back and forth conversation with the prospect.
Yeah, potentially. I also realize that I have a skewed perception of our world. Like, yes, I live and breathe SaaS and the sales functions within them, but the teams that I have a meaningful amount of knowledge about have hired us. And so that fact alone says that I'm working with an organization who takes, let's stick on sales development, extremely seriously, to the point that they're willing to invest in an outside third party to improve the production of their sales development function. So like already is there, I'm willing to accept that there might already be some separation in performance of the way they go about executing the SDR process. So maybe I'm not working with, and I don't have knowledge of the teams who will be fully replaced by AI. I'm saying the groups
Hmm.
that I work with, like that it's going to have to evolve pretty significantly from where it's at now. And we'll see what ChatGPT 5 looks like in the summer, but
Yeah.
it's not close right now to the teams that I work with personally. But
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense because if they're working with you guys, then they're doing pretty good, and
and
they're
they have a
performing
leadership
better
team
than.
who cares about them and invests in them, and it takes really seriously the process that they run, the messaging that they use. Like this team has a lot behind them.
Hmm.
It's not just people dialing down a list with generic messaging.
Hmm.
So, and
Sure.
I realize that they do still exist. I just don't work with them.
Hmm. Yeah, gotcha. Do you think like and I don't even know at what point where like some of the AI stuff is at what point, how far along it is. Is it to the point yet right now where like you can like there's AI like it sounds like a real person is cold calling you and like.
I thought I'm almost positive. I haven't kept up to date on the latest, but I thought the FCC banned that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I haven't like I thought I saw like a some video or something where somebody was able to like actually have a conversation and it wasn't a human being, it was like a bot. But yeah, that might be possible if the SEC banned that. So, yeah.
For outbound was my recollection. Now I will say, like for assistants, I've talked to those. I've
Hmm.
talked
Oh,
to a
okay. Assistance. Yeah, like if you're making an appointment with
if
a
I call
dentist or something.
you, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. If I call you, then your AI bot could communicate with me and coordinate something.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are weird.
Yeah, and then you find out that that wasn't an actual person you were talking to. You're like, whoa. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. It's getting weird. And I'm sure it's gonna keep getting even more weird, which is why like you just as a sales professional, I would think like the advice needs to be like just get better at your craft to the point where you do something or many things, that a bot can't do. Like you're able to provide so much solution selling and consultative selling and be an industry expert and like be a true sales professional that, a bot can't do those types of can't get to that level, right?
I think that, and this could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we spend so much time thinking about how to effectively adopt and where we lose sight of execution and performance takes a dip along with that, all of a sudden it starts looking easier and easier to think about, is this team worth the money? And
Hmm.
so to me, like there also needs to be a filter between reps doing the job and all of the possibilities of what could be to some extent. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have the ability to go out and do their own research and identify, hey, what could they be doing better on their own? That being said, if you just keep forwarding emails in every LinkedIn post to all the reps on your team, and it's just like this never ending game of like whack-a-mole of like, oh, well, let's try this other thing.
Hmm.
And what could we maybe be doing better in terms of technology we're utilizing? That can cause a lot of distractions, and not everyone's equipped for that. Like some
Hmm.
reps would thrive in that environment, others not so much. And so I think sometimes it is more beneficial to put the blinders on and be like, this is the process as it exists today. That
Hmm.
it's not chiseled in stone. We will iterate and improve upon it, but just go to like just go dry pipeline.
Yep.
And running this process that we've solidified, and we're not going to change it every week. We're not going to rethink it every other day. Just go. So I think that there's some value in that. And then also, like one of the things I see teams do really well is not just throw technologies at sales teams, which unfortunately happens. A
Hmm.
sales leader or RevOps or somebody buys the technology and it's just like, hey, we have a new technology. Here it is. It's
Yeah.
integrated and uploaded. Here's your login information. And there's no meaningful enablement until the reps are left to themselves to figure out, what am I supposed to do with this and how do I build this into my workflow?
Hmm.
It happens more frequently than I would love to admit.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, but instead, like having a meaningful enablement plan of like, what is this? Why are we going to use it? How do we build it into our process? What are
Hmm.
we assuming the benefit will be? What are the success measures going to look like? Like telling that whole story and doing proper enablement to ensure that it is not just another distraction that is pretty important, especially when you're thinking about investing whatever, 2 grand or up a year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like you don't want to just flush that money down the toilet for sure. Yeah, I guess like kind of last question, because again, we try to keep these like episodes pretty short and stuff. Anything you want to share from the recent AE research that you guys published that you think would be helpful to people watching? Like, what's like one or two of the biggest takeaways from that? Or if there's anything else that you want to leave viewers with that you think might be helpful when they're like iterating and adjusting their go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, from a sales leader perspective, I'll focus on that one because those are top of mind for me right now.
Hmm.
Two interesting takeaways. One, win rate. Like if your team's win rate is down, that was not a phenomenon unique to you. So we saw that typical win rates for a long time running were about 23%. Those dropped to
Hmm.
19% in the latest survey that we did.
Hmm.
And so a fairly significant drop on a percentage basis on win rates. So we were just losing a lot of deals last year, which
Hmm.
meant it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But then you're thinking about like 4x pipeline coverage requirement versus 5x pipeline coverage requirement. And
Sure.
so it starts to become more significant. And so needing to have more AE self-driven pipeline, really dialing in the production of the sales development team helped to, still get some reps to their number.
Hmm.
And then the other one that I found interesting is 4x, I think it's technically 4.1, is
Hmm.
the number for OTE to quota. So if you have a 200K OTE, your quota is going to be 800, like
Hmm.
roughly, right? Like somewhere in that range. So decent benchmark for assumptions on how much you're going to pay your salespeople versus how
Hmm.
much you anticipate in terms of quota production.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some good stuff. And if people want to dig more into that and see more, the full report, like how do they, is that something that's available? And
Oh yeah. Yep. It's on our blog. So
okay.
bridgegroupinc.com. You go to the resources page, it's there available. It's gated content, but free. And
Hmm.
then there's a YouTube video with Matt Bertuzzi, who actually runs all of our research reports, and I breaking down a lot of the takeaways from this most recent release of AE metrics. So not just
Hmm.
like serving up, here's the stats, but talking through what might they mean and how do they compare to
Hmm.
previous years.
Okay, cool. Everybody that's watching, check that out. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.